The Heaven Beetle.
I don't have it.
When gems fuse, they usually create brand new living beings who gain their own unique personality, thoughts, and desires.
I am myself, and I'm sick of being split up. So you better get used to me, baby, and get this junk off my beat.
But yeah, something incredibly weird happens when a fusion becomes unstable for even a second on screen.
Are you okay? We can stop if you... No.
Something that single-handedly led me to pondering the question, does our girl Garnet truly exist within the minds of other gem fusions? Or is she broken down into the minds of Ruby and Sapphire after fusing with other gems?
Now, just remember everybody, if you ever have need of the lovely sardonyx, let Pearl and Garnet know. I'll be there in a flash. Literally.
This is easily one of the most complicated and confusing Steven Universe topics out there because we have a ton of official information that all seems to conflict with each other in different ways, but let's start from the beginning.
I'm Greg Universe, and this massive drink of water is my wife, Alexandrite.
Hi.
I just can't stop thinking about that woman at the show.
Oh, here we go. How big was she?
Take Alexandrite for example, the titan composed of the base gems Ruby, Sapphire, Amethyst, and Pearl.
We won't stand out if we play the roles we were made for.
We'd learned during the season 1 episode titled Fusion Cuisine that whenever Alexandrite becomes unstable, Garnet gains control over her top pair of arms.
Do you turn into a giant woman? Or just a regular-sized giant woman? Ugh. Does one of you control the right arm and the other control the left arm?
Yes!
What are you doing?
I'm hungry!
I don't think so. Cut it out, you two.
Amethyst gains control over her middle pair of arms, and Pearl of course gains control over her bottom pair of arms.
Cut it out, you two.
Which seems to confirm that Garnet, a gem fusion, does very much exist within the minds of other gem fusions. At least whenever they become unstable, so case closed, right? Well, no, not at all. I mean, when you actually take a step back and think about it, then it seriously doesn't make any sense in the slightest for Garnet's mind to exist within the minds of other gem fusions. Because this would have to mean that if Garnet and Opal fuse, that they should be able to form into an entirely new version of Alexandrite. A version of Alexandrite who had Garnet and Opal's voices popping up inside of their minds whenever the giant woman became unstable, instead of Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl's. But at the same time, we know that this isn't the case because, as a few of you have rightfully pointed out, Rebecca Sugar along with the rest of the Croniverse have already confirmed that a version of Alexandrite formed from Garnet and Opal or Ruby, Sapphire, Amethyst, and Pearl would create the exact same version of Alexandrite, which means that in every single scenario, Alexandrite is stuck with Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl being the primary voices who pop up inside of her mind whenever she becomes unstable.
You've really shown me a whole new world of possibilities. Keep it together.
And this has a boatload of fascinating implications, right? So for those of you who didn't know, Alexandrite has always had her own voice actress named Rita Rani Rahua. And I'm saying for those of you who didn't know because I legitimately didn't know that Alexandrite has always had her own voice actress.
Right, honey? Sorry.
Have some more breadsticks, dear.
I somehow bamboozled myself into believing that the giant woman has always been voiced by Estelle, Michaela Dietz, and Didi Magno Hall, who are the voice actresses for Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl respectively.
You know, you're right. There really is something more to this fusion thing.
You know, similarly to how Malachite didn't have her own voice actress and was simply just a mixture of Lapis's voice actress being Jennifer Paz and Jasper's voice actress being Kimberly Brooks. But no, our girl Alexandrite has always had her own voice actress and has consistently only ever had the voices of Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl coming out of her mouth or mouths during moments of stress and during scenes when she was just about to straight up unfuse, which conflicts with one of the most popular headcanons in the entire community. At Igor1671 said, while referring to the season 3 premiere titled Super Watermelon Island, at the end of the battle against Malachite, some say that Sugilite and Opal spoke through Alexandrite. Judging by the change in her tone of voice, I honestly agree. So yeah, the idea is that Sugilite spoke through Alexandrite by saying, "Don't forget about me."
Hey! Don't forget about me!
So you better get used to me, baby.
While Opal spoke through Alexandrite by saying, I think you two should spend some time apart.
You two should spend some time apart. All you wanna do is see me turn into
A giant woman.
Why isn't it possible? It's just not. Why not, you stupid bastard?
And I mean, this is definitely one of the most compelling headcanons out there, right? Since it really does sound like our girl Opal was speaking through Alexandrite at the end of her battle against Malachite, and Sugilite was speaking through Alexandrite after she'd managed to free herself and rejoin the fight during the battle. But it's important to keep in mind that Opal and Sugilite's voice actresses didn't actually voice either of those lines during the episode, and Alexandrite in general is a fusion that constantly changes her tone of voice even during scenes when she should have been as close to being 100% stable as possible.
Malachite! We don't have to fight. You're outnumbered.
Now this in itself doesn't mean that Rebecca Sugar along with the rest of her crewniverse couldn't have directed Alexandrite's voice actress to speak more like Sugilite and Opal during those two scenes. Because even I'll admit that she absolutely sounded like them, but how could Sugilite and Opal exist within Alexandrite if we've already gone over why their voices shouldn't be able to appear within the giant woman? Unless if the idea is that every combination of a fusion's base gems exists within the mind of said fusion at any given moment. In other words, maybe the writers intended for Opal, Sugilite, Sardonyx, Ruby, and Sapphire to have existed within the mind of Alexandrite alongside Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl from the beginning, which would explain the reasoning for confirming that Alexandrite would be exactly the same in every single scenario. At Blue Diamond 4383 replied to at Igor1671's original comment with a question. So every single gem and every single fusion combination exists within a bigger fusion, right? Which is a fair point. I mean, we technically haven't seen most of the possible fusions that could be formed by the crystal gems. So would those fusions also be present inside of Alexandrite or Obsidian? Well, at Sugio and Resquiro, Gavalad6816 replied by saying, chances are that fusions that have never been made, like fusions with only Ruby or Sapphire and not both, would not manifest in larger fusions, even if any fusions can manifest in multi-conscious large fusions.
That seems reasonable.
And this line of logic seems to make the most sense to me when it comes to this wildly complicated mystery. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this discussion, and I'm really hoping that lots of us stars will be able to find the time to tell us the truth behind if it is truly possible for the minds of other fusions along with their base gems to exist within larger fusions. Because I'm sure that it's yet another worthy contender to get called out as being one of the darkest secrets of a fallen gem empire.